his morning light. It is his morning light. His morning light. Men's morning light was named after his morning light. Hi, Trapper Jack here with Men's Morning Light. No music today. We're going to go quiet. Why? Because his morning light will be happening as I do the show live Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. His morning light, part of his light, the sunlight, will be coming up in 10 minutes. We are 10 minutes away. We're in that quiet place. I stumbled upon an old podcast of mine from a little less than 2 years ago. And it was called His Morning Light. And I listened to it and I thought, this is interesting. This will be a good topic for the day. It's about that incredible, quiet, alone time with God in a couple of different places. Maybe you've been there, maybe not, because out there right now, maybe Nathan. Episode 95 of my Touched by Heaven podcast was Nathan Nelson. What does he do? He takes men, one guy at a time, out hunting. Several years ago, he heard three words: take him hunting. What is that? Take who? And he flashed on, he had seen somebody on Facebook who wanted to be taken hunting, and he thought, okay. Nathan had sold his business, so he had some money, and he thought he would, on his own nickel, he would take guys who maybe couldn't afford to or know exactly what to do. He would take them hunting, but before they went hunting, he would go out into nature with them, sit in a blind, and he wanted them to experience God on that level with nature. And what would they do? Well, first, what do you hear first? Well, first, it's the coldest part of the day or morning, like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's cold. It was this morning. It was cold. It was chilly. And then we're around this time now. And as we get around this time now, pretty soon you started hearing things. You started hearing the birds wake up, and then the insects would wake up, and you start hearing deer rustling still in the dark. And then pretty soon here would come the light. And then would come this glorious sunrise. Look at this glorious sunrise here. Beautiful, beautiful sunrise. And nobody says anything but that is gorgeous. Nobody says, what an ugly sunrise today. No, it's gorgeous. Everyone understands the beauty, and that who's behind this beauty is God. You have to see God somewhere in this. And this is what Nathan wanted these guys to experience. He knows most people don't go to church. He knows most people don't experience God in church. So he, on his own dime, takes men out to experience God on this level, alone with him, hearing nature, seeing God's creation, seeing everything that Jesus is behind, in him, with him, through him, for him, create everything created through Jesus Christ, right? He wants them to experience on whatever level they are, whatever level they can experience. Most guys aren't in a church, but everybody walks through nature. Now, this is going on out there right now. You and I are probably tucked inside here, and we're missing it right now. But there are people out there right now, and Nathan may be with some guy out there right now, having them experience exactly this moment. We are, as Peter says, we are his living stones out here in the world, bringing people to God on whatever level. But in that moment, that quiet out there in the nature, and a sun coming up, and suddenly things start feeling warmer, on some level, you are experiencing God. And for Nathan, it began with three words: take him hunting. And some guy that he saw on Facebook wanting to be taken hunting, and out he goes. And this guy spent tens of thousands, hundreds of $1,000s taking out hundreds of men for this experience with God. I flashed on that several weeks ago, also in Touched by Heaven, was Vicky, non-Catholic again, and Nathan's not Catholic. And this is leading to something that's very Catholic. Vicky, non-Catholic, heard five words. Hers were, go to the Catholic Church. Five words. She's not Catholic. What the heck? She hears these five words. She drives to her nearest Catholic church. She walks inside. There's no mass going on, middle of the day. And she walks in. She sits in a pew, cavernous church, and she's sitting there going, I'm here, so what? What for? She doesn't realize she's sitting there with Jesus. He's in the tabernacle. She is, in a sense, in Eucharistic adoration without even realizing it. But she's sitting there going, what am I supposed to? Oh, I guess I'm supposed to pray. She starts praying. Again, not realizing she is with Jesus in a very quiet moment, kind of like the guys not realizing I'm with God right now. She's not fully realizing. She knows she's in a church, a holy place. But Jesus is right there. And when we're right there with Jesus, he can transform us. And that's something Nathan said. He said he would get these great letters back from these men saying, you have no idea how transformative that was on some spiritual level. Well, here's Vicky sitting in a church. She wanders up to the ambo. She looks at the book. She starts reading. She likes it in there. She keeps coming back. She keeps coming back into this Catholic church. Again, in a form of adoration without even realizing it and praying and all that. And over time, she gets a nudge to go to Medjugorje in Bosnia, where Mary has been appearing to these visionaries since 1981. She gets this nudge. She should go. She does go. And while Mary is appearing to one of these visionaries, bam, something happens. She had been dealing with migraines for years, pain for years. She went to this church because she thought that was some answer to some sort of prayer. And while this apparition is going on, something happens. She feels it, and her migraines go away. They are gone. That's her sign. And she, now figuring it out, whose voice was that? It was a woman's voice that said, go to the Catholic Church. She figures out it's Mary. It's Mary. Huh. And she joins RCIA, goes in through the program, and becomes a Catholic. She now receives Eucharist on a daily basis, if she can, at least once a week. And she has her own ministry going out there. She is all in. How did she get there? Hearing a woman's voice, Mary, going into a church in Eucharistic adoration. She didn't know it was Mary. She didn't know it was adoration, but still. And then Jesus can do something when we sit there with him quietly. He can, without us even realizing it, conform our minds, our hearts into something closer to his. Remember last week I was talking about that monstrance to Jesus through Mary. This was that Church of the Assumption I was asked to speak during adoration. And here it is, to Jesus through Mary, we come to Christ and belief in the Eucharist. So now she does believe in the Eucharist. She believes in all of it. She took it all in. She's all in, a Protestant, coming to this fullness of the Catholic faith through adoration, through this nudge. Okay. I don't think it's an accident that a couple of weeks after that, another non-Catholic gets a hold of me for the podcast. His name is Ben. Ben, when he was in college, was painting houses. 2 minutes away, by the way, 2 minutes away from Sunrise, just so you know. Ben was painting houses as a college kid, and there's a Catholic couple who's employing him. And out front on the porch is a statue, one of St. Francis of Assisi, and another statue, Blessed Mother. He's talking to Assisi. He knows the Assisi story. He knows. And how it loves nature, again, going back to nature. But he doesn't know that much about Mary. He doesn't understand the devotion to Blessed Mother Mary. And he says, Mary, I don't get it. Explain it to me. And over time, she does. Well, I guess that was 3 minutes. Blank, I can't read the clock. Okay. It's funny. I'm looking at a clock. Whatever. So he says to Mary, I don't understand you. But over time, he starts to understand. In fact, there's one time he's driving. There's this flash of light in front of him, and he knows it has something to do with Mary. Pulls over. He's in tears. Actually writes a song about Mary. He's driven into Catholic churches again. He loves the beauty. He falls in love with saints. He falls in love with Mary. Again, not realizing he's sitting there with Jesus in adoration. Over time, he and a friend start driving across country, stopping at every cathedral along the way, stopping at every Marian shrine along the way, and again, not realizing that Jesus can do something in that quiet, alone moment, transforming Ben's mind, his heart, into loving. He starts praying the rosary, starts reading about saints, and he says to me, as a Lutheran, I know you guys have it. I know that's the Eucharist. I know that's Jesus Christ in the tabernacle. I said, why aren't you Catholic? And he says, I'm Lutheran. I don't want to ruffle feathers in the family, but I guarantee you, he is on his way. He is on his way. I think about something Bishop Sheen said, Bishop Fulton Sheen. He talked about, he didn't ask the apostles to do much. What did he ask him to do? Spend 1 hour with me. Just spend an hour with me. That's all. And that's what Jesus asks us to do, the same thing. Just come sit in a church. Monstrance doesn't have to be out there. Just come. Or I think about Saint Escriva. Saint Escriva saying that, this moment that you sit there alone with Jesus transforming you unknowingly, Jesus has been waiting for 20 centuries for you to be sitting there for this moment of encounter. He's been waiting 20 centuries for this. There is Saint Alphonsus, who says, God hears our prayers. He listens to us. He hears our prayers no matter what. But there are special graces that come to us when we sit there in a church, usually by ourselves. Special graces. And that's exactly what the book says, too. This book I mentioned last week, Insenu Jesu, written by a Benedictine monk, Jesus coming to him, he and Mary coming to him and telling him so much about Eucharistic adoration. And this book is so embraced by priests, bishops, cardinals. They can't talk enough about this special moment, the special moment of being in the presence of Jesus Christ. And by the way, there should be music right now. And I'm not going to play any because we're going to stay in the quiet of the sunrise. Let's show the sunrise. The sunrise is happening right now, this creation from God. And there are people out there right now alone with God in this special place, seeing God's creation right now, this beautiful place. And we are called to go to church, to go inside churches and sit alone with Jesus and have him transform us. Heck, Moses and the Israelites did this before there was a Eucharist. They, the manna from heaven that fell from heaven, they took that manna and they put it in like a jar, and they put it in the holy of the holy place inside the tent and everything, and they'd sit in front of it and look at it. Imagine that. Imagine that, sitting there and just looking at bread. Who would do such a thing, right? New Testament's an upgrade, guys. It's always an upgrade, like a computer. But there they would sit, and they would call that the face of God. Inside the book, we know that it's called the Eucharistic face of Jesus, the Eucharistic face, or the wounded heart of Jesus, because in all the Eucharistic miracles, when bread turns into something that isn't bread, it's always a heart, isn't it? We've talked about that so many times. It's always a human heart, left ventricle, type AB blood, white blood cells. This is a heart that's still alive, but a wounded heart. I mentioned last week, too, in case you're not sure whether or not that bread really is Jesus. When John Paul II was at the seminary in Baltimore, shaking hands with seminarians, and then he wants to go into the chapel, and it hasn't been secured yet, so they send in the dogs to sniff out any humans. Where do the dogs go? Up to the altar, sit in front of the tabernacle, and signal, someone's in there. Even dogs know. Even dogs know that is Jesus. And we know, and the book tells us again, we get transformed just sitting there with Jesus. We get transformed. In fact, in the book, Jesus reminds us that, when we're down to under 30% of Catholics believing that the Eucharist is Jesus Christ, he says the remedy, the greatest remedy, is for you and me to sit there alone in a church in Eucharistic adoration. That is the greatest remedy. To sit there with our friend. The book reminding us again, he is our friend. He wants to be thought of as a friend. Don't try to live up to some ideal. Don't worship an ideal. Sit there with your friend. I saw a priest recently talking about adoration. He said, so many people, they'll kneel and it gets uncomfortable. And I should be kneeling in here. I need to be kneeling. And all of a sudden, the focus isn't on Jesus. It's on you and your knees, and you're in pain. And it's like, no. Do you do that when you're with your friends? I want to get in the most uncomfortable position as possible and spend time with my friend. No, you're comfortable. Sit there with your friend, and he'll transform you. What else? Oh, while you're there, what do I do when I'm in Eucharistic adoration? What do I do? I should bring a book, right? That's fine. Bring a book. You have a devotional book, but don't give up the special time where Jesus wants to speak to you. Bring your rosary, sure, but don't give up the time when Jesus wants to speak to you, and you can unload too on what is on your heart. Don't give up those moments. You are with your friend. We talk a lot about Luke 8:16, about who takes a light and hides it under a lamp. The Eucharistic adoration is just that, the power that is inside that adoration of just sitting there with Jesus, the power that is in that. My wife Elizabeth and I, we were debating. Our pastor asked us to join liturgical commissions a few years back, and we were debating it. One of the things we talked about was there were rumors of canceling Eucharistic adoration. We only had it on First Fridays, and only be after Mass on Fridays so basically 10 to 1, 3 hours, but people weren't coming. So they were talking about, there were rumors of canceling it. And we were in that parish for more than 25 years before we even knew there was Eucharistic adoration. No one was talking about it, wasn't in the bulletin. So one of the main reasons we joined was to increase the hours, increase the awareness, which has happened now. Now it's an all day and into the evening First Friday thing. And now there's 40-hour devotionals at time, hours of adoration. And there needs to be more of this. I think about Juarez, Mexico. Man, it was years ago. There were 5,000 drug-related murders every year, 5,000 a year. And a priest went out to all the parishes. He couldn't say Eucharistic adoration is the answer. And so all these churches in Juarez started doing adoration. 1 year later, 5,000 became 1,000. Amazing drop. No other explanation. Absolutely no other explanation. It's the power of the Eucharist. And since I guess I have to tell you this too. I got words too. A few days back, I woke up to, I want to do that. I want to do that. I'm going, "Well, what I wanna," and it was in my I was hearing myself, "I want to do that." And it's like, "What do I wanna do?" And it hit me, "I wanna do that. I wanna be sitting in a church more often." So that's the plan. That's the plan. I wanna do that because I want more transformation. Is there something in you that you don't like? Just a shot that maybe there's something in you you don't like, and you want that transformed? We have to spend more time. We are the average of the 5 people we spend time with the most. Is Jesus one of those 5? And the most powerful way to spend time with him is in the church. But it's boring and and I don't know what to do. Just sit there. Look at him and he'll look at you. If the Eucharist is not, look at the cross. Look at him, he's looking at you. You are in his presence. 2 Protestants in the last month have become Catholic or on the road without even realizing how it happened. That through Mary to Jesus, they they were on their way, have become or will become Catholic. Not that Catholic is the end all, it's about the relationship. It's about the more than being Catholic, it is about, I'll be the first to say that, it is about the relationship with Jesus Christ, and something happens in there. Something happens. Let's finish out with the sunrise, God's great creation. Men who don't go to church, seeing God somehow, feeling God somehow. That is his creation. That is his beauty. Working on us in a way, working on those men in ways they could not understand, and realizing a spirituality in themselves that they didn't know was there. And we, in Eucharistic adoration, sitting there just unaware of what's going on right now, something will happen. Something is happening to someone sitting. There's someone sitting in a church right now. Lots of someone sitting in the church with Jesus in the tabernacle, and they are being transformed and they are growing closer to Christ and becoming more like him. And it's just happening powerfully and silently. I pray that you join me in Eucharistic adoration at your nearest Catholic church. God bless you and see you next week on Men's Morning Light.